What's up, guys? Chris Brown from Train Boston coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I wanted to take a little bit of a break from the intangibles and move a little bit more to something physical. We're going to be talking about home workouts and home gyms. Not just the setup, but also the reasoning behind it and where you want to go about it, and maybe your thought processes about where, why, and how you would do everything. I've been getting this question from a lot of people lately, and I know there's a lot of information out there online about this specifically. So just take it for what it is. It's probably not for you if you've been lifting weights for 20 plus years. This is probably a little bit more for the newbies and the beginners. However, if you do get something good out of this, great, and that's awesome, and I hope I can continue to bring you some useful information. So the first question I've been posing to people is, what are you doing to move right now? I tell people that two important aspects of movement in my chain are just general exercise and exercise or movement for wellness. Now, how I define those are exercise is getting your heart rate up. It's putting stress on your muscles, your tissue, your bones, your ligaments, your meniscuses, etc. And then I consider movement for wellness to be something that you do more for your mind. Maybe that's going for a walk outside or a light jog. Maybe that's doing some easy yoga or a light swim, etc. It's just generally something you're not doing to crush yourself. You're not doing for any performance specific reasons. You're just going to do it because it makes you feel good. I hear that all the time from people as to why they go for a run or why they go for a bike ride. It's because it makes them feel good. And that's great. I love it, especially when it's outside, gets you some sunshine. But if you aren't doing something, it's important to realize that not doing something puts you at a higher risk for both mental and physical ailments. And if you already have some of these physical and mental ailments, this is going to put you at an even higher risk. We're talking, for the mental, we're talking Alzheimer, we're talking Parkinson's, etc., etc. We don't want that. We're talking about, for the physical ailments, of course, metabolic syndrome, atherosclerosis, other kinds of heart issues, diabetes. And of course, we had those risks before, but now they're just even worse. If you're sitting for long periods of time, you're not moving, there's a higher chance that that kind of stuff's going to go wrong. And on the lower end of things, you're just going to start to feel creaky. Your joints will hurt. If you keep your knees bent for too long and you crane your neck towards the camera like so, get that kyphotic shoulder, the hunched traps, it's going to start to hurt. You might start getting tension, headaches, all kinds of issues. So we need to move. But we can't leave our houses all that much. We can only leave a little bit. Maybe we can move for a walk or whatever, but we need to get that exercise aspect as well. So what can you do within your home? Well, before we answer that question, we got to ask a few different questions about what we have to work with, okay? So whenever someone talks to me about a home gym, I say the first thing as a trainer I look for is space. If I have a gym or any space with a lot of room, I can do a lot with that. If I have very little room, then, I don't care what you have available. If it can't fit in there, or you can't move it around, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything for me. A giant treadmill in a 5x5 room is probably a huge waste of space. It's not very efficient. But one dumbbell will do me a lot. So what kind of space do you have around you? Overhead space versus floor space. Overhead space, if you don't have it, don't think about overhead pressing exercises. A lot of us shouldn't be doing that anyways, maybe because of shoulder mobility or pain issues, but a lot of us do want to do overhead stuff. A lot of us do want to jump. A lot of us would like to do box jumps, that kind of stuff. But if you don't have the ceiling space, don't plan for it. It's going to be useless to you and just take up too much space. As far as your floor space goes, if you want to do shuffling and agility drills and footwork, and you got these speed ladders in your house and you got these mini hurdles, if you don't have a lot of floor space, don't plan for that stuff. It's going to be useless, okay? So we're looking to be efficient. If you do have the space, great, use it, all right? But if you don't plan for it. It's not worth your money to buy this stuff. It's not worth your time to think about it, okay? Another thing is, what's your floor like? Do you have a really hard floor? If you have a really hard floor, you might want to think about getting some gym matting or at least getting a mat. Do you have neighbors below you? Is jumping up and down going to be something that you're allowed to do? Maybe you're going to stir up some trouble. Also, how good is your floor? If you're going to be potentially dropping weights on there, or even just jumping up and down with weights in your hands. Is the integrity of the floor going to handle it? Are you going to smash up your floor? These are the kind of things you need to think about. All right. Then we got airflow and quality of air. So if you're in a basement, first of all, of course, you don't want Freon or anything like that. But if there's not very good airflow and you're busting your butt on, say, an assault bike, that may be a problem. So you want to consider that. Maybe you can open up a door, open up some windows, get some sunlight in there would be great. Then you get your noise factor. Like I said already, if you got neighbors below you. However, if you're going to be on an assault bike or a rowing erg, or you're going to be jumping up and down or slamming a medicine ball, that may cause a problem even if there's no one right below you. So take that into consideration when you're talking about your home gym. Then we got safety. Safety is a big one. Probably should be higher on my list. I didn't really put these in any specific order. But make sure that you don't have things that you're going to trip over. There shouldn't be any pipes like sticking out that you could back up into by accident, stab yourself. Any open wiring. A lot of people work out in their basements or maybe even their attics. Make sure you don't have any of that stuff. No open gasoline tanks or just any kind of thing that could hurt you. And on that same note, do you have a first aid kit? Do you have someone else that's in your house that's going to know if you're in there and if you're hurt? If nobody can hear you on the other end of the sound, nobody can know if you're hurt and calling for help. So take that into consideration when you're working out, especially if you can get heavier weights, right? Don't try to do things without a spotter. I'm assuming you're fairly new. So if you're using some really heavy weights, you got lucky, you got your hands on some good heavy weights, don't ignore the fact that you still should be using a spotter. That's very important. Even professionals use spotters because we really understand the value of it. All right. And then probably one of the lesser important things, but still something to think about, is your internet, your Wi-Fi. You may be wanting to use an interval timer. Maybe you want to use a tempo timer. Maybe you want to do some heart rate monitoring or some heart rate variability, and you want to see what that's doing. If you're in a place like your cellar, it's got a lot of rebar, a lot of concrete, you may not get some good reception there. So if you can consider that, great. That's just something to think about for the future. Maybe you can put a booster in there, but that wouldn't be my top concern. Just something to think about. It's not something everyone thinks about right away when they lift weights. And if you're doing a Zoom call, you're not going to be able to get a good training service in there if your Wi-Fi is terrible. It's just going to cut out and frustrate you. All right. And then we get into your goals. All right. So before we bought anything, we're talking about goals. All right. I always talk about SMART goals. All right. We know about SMART goals by now. I've said it a million times. If you haven't, go ahead and look at a past video or just Google SMART goals, SMART. Okay. Two parts of those that are probably the most important right now are attainable and relevant. All right. A lot of things are not going to be attainable right now. If you don't have heavy weights and you don't have a lot of high resistance and you're trying to get more hypertrophy or bigger and more strength, a lot stronger, you're probably not going to get there. So it's not realistic. It's not attainable to go for that kind of goal. Maybe you want to find a different kind of goal. That's a big one for people who are always dead set on the same thing. It's important to have some diversity, and you can always get right back to that goal once the gyms reopen. All right. So realize there are other variables in this training as well. So there's a lot of factors you cannot control. There's a lot of mental things that you can control to some extent, but maybe won't work so well. There's things like, I can't get this equipment. It's not because it's not available ever. It's because right now things aren't available online. So don't try to work out around what you want to have. Work out around what you can have. If you're injured, don't worry about that so much as what can I do. Don't tell me what you can't do. Don't tell me that it hurts too much so much as what step can we take to be productive with what we have within the confines of what we actually have. Okay, so our goal may be get better so I don't hurt. That should probably be your goal. The goal should be to get in a better mental state so I'm not depressed and I don't struggle to even start working out. All right. So we got to be reasonable about our goals before we can think about what we're going to buy or how hard we're going to work out. And if you aren't motivated, find a way to be. Okay. If you can't be motivated, it doesn't matter what kind of gym you have. It's useless. You won't do it. You won't use it. It will collect cobwebs. I heard a joke one time that we call it the treadmill home workout. The only workout you get from your treadmill is when you have to take that treadmill out of the truck, put it in your house, and then when you do the same thing to sell it, put it in someone else's truck and take it out of the house. That's unfortunately all too common. That could be the same way with your weights, your dumbbells, kettlebells, anything else. Okay, so write out your plan. All right, make it attainable. Again, make sure it's attainable. It's smart, realistic, attainable. All right, it's relevant to you, and there's some kind of time constraint to it. Even if it's only month by month right now, that's absolutely fine. It's a good time constraint. All right, and when you write it out, you're going to be more likely to do it. I don't care if it's write out 1 day a week for a half hour. That's a good start. Be better than you were before, but make sure you do it and make sure you write it down, check it off. If you don't have anything written down, it's a lot less like you're actually going to do it. All right, and then let's assess your budget. All right, there are a lot of gimmicky things on sale right now. You're going to find Facebook ads and marketplace ads, and Amazon's going nuts with this stuff. eBay's going nuts with this stuff. There's a lot of things you don't need to buy. Don't get swept up in that. It's okay to buy that stuff once in a while, but don't spend all your money on something that some guy with a six-pack or a woman in a bikini is telling you is the best thing ever. You probably don't need it. You need very few things, and we'll get to that in just a second here. And on top of that, prices are inflated. I don't want to get too much into money here, but everybody's trying to price gouge right now. They know that kettlebells and dumbbells and fitness equipment are at a shortage. They know they can take advantage of it, and they're going to. So ask somebody for help if you don't understand what a good price is, and they'll help you out. I just helped my buddy out figuring out about barbells. Unfortunately, the barbell he probably should get, they're all sold out. So he decided to buy a more expensive one, which is great, but it's a lot of money. So at least that barbell will last him forever. So I said, hey, you know what? If you got that money, that's great. You'll never have to replace this thing. All right. And beyond that, we just have to be good with understanding that we're within constraints right now. Whether we have COVID going on or not, you're in a house. You maybe don't have a big house. Maybe don't have a big space. Maybe your significant other isn't cool with you taking up a whole floor for your gym. Probably they're not. I would love that, but that's not happening for me either. But let's find the good in that. Let's find the good in restriction. Restriction builds creativity. All right. The constraints are what we really call them, and constraints will make you better in many ways. Constraints, they guide you on the path and limit what can go wrong. So one of the things good about machines in a gym is that they have constraints. You can't just go wherever you want for your range of motion. That can be good, but it also stops you from doing things wrong if you're new at movements, right? So within your apartment or your house, you're constrained. So hopefully it will force you to do some research. Maybe you'll read something you never would have read. Maybe you'll watch this video. And that's a good thing. You're going to learn so you can focus on what really works and not all that flashy stuff that's on a YouTube video or an Instagram post. Make sure it's good information. And again, you can always ask people. All right. So here, this is what you're really looking for. 1327 on the time. What should you buy? So there's a good list and a better list, but I'm going to give you kind of bare minimum here. First of all, I think you should get a heavy dumbbell and a lighter dumbbell. Heavy and light are relevant or relative to you and how strong you are. But I would say a heavy dumbbell is something that you can deadlift or squat with. So for me, I'm looking for somewhere around 70 pounds, and I can do quite a bit of reps on that, but it's still fairly heavy. For the average person, I'd say a heavy dumbbell is 40 pounds, maybe a little less for some women, maybe like 35 or 30. But make sure it's something that you can really feel when you're squatting or deadlifting with. And a lighter dumbbell is something we're thinking like a side raise or a halo around your shoulders, something that's not going to be impossible to press over your head. All right. If you can do that, that's great. Now, if you can get a pair of those dumbbells, that's even better. But anything you can do with two dumbbells, you can definitely do with one dumbbell. So don't worry about if you can only get a hold of one, all right, or if you can only afford one. I say the same thing for kettlebells. Now, if you aren't a kettlebell connoisseur, if you haven't ever used kettlebells, you don't know how to do swings, you don't know how to do snatches or cleans, it may not even matter to get a kettlebell. However, if you can only get a kettlebell, you can do almost everything that you can do with a dumbbell with a kettlebell as well. So in an ideal world, you'd get a pair of heavy and light of both of those, but one or the other works just fine. All right, so beyond that, we're looking for the next most important thing, I think, is a bench. Do not go cheap on benches. You can buy benches all the way up to like $2,000 if you want. Absolutely do not need that. They will last forever, but they're a pain in the butt to move, and they're very heavy and they're unnecessary. That being said, you should find a nice adjustable bench, and you should find something. What I mean by that is that it can go to 90 degrees or it can go flat or incline at 45, but it needs to be sturdy, and you need to make sure it goes from your head down to your sacrum when you're lying down. So if you're a taller guy like me, make sure you don't buy one of those cheaper benches that's not long and not sturdy. You will regret it for both safety reasons and performance reasons. Off that bench, you can do step ups, you can do bench press, you can do dumbbell rows, you can do hip bridges, you can do literally everything with those three things I just said. That being said, I have a few more things that I would suggest. We got some bands. We call them super bands, but long bands. They're usually about this long. I know I'm not giving you a great range here, but they're going to come about a 1/4 inch all the way up to 2 inches. I would suggest getting something about a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and maybe 1.5 inches, depending on what you're doing with it. If you have the ceiling space, you can do assisted pull-ups with it. You can do tear aparts with it. You can row with it. You can press with it. There's a lot of things you can do with the band. Okay. In fact, if you only had a band, I could give you a pretty good workout on that with just a little bit of space as well. And then finally, I tell people you probably want some kind of mat or gym flooring. Gym flooring takes up more space and more expensive, but it will be soft enough that you can probably lie on your back. You can probably do some hip bridges. You can do some core work. You can be on your hands and knees on it and not feel like there's a lot of pressure and pain in your knees. So let's recap. Heavy and light dumbbell and or pair dumbbells, heavy and light kettlebells and or pair kettlebells, a bench of some sort, a matting or gym flooring of some sort, and 3 different levels of resistance of some kind of super band. They sell them on Amazon. They sell them on Perform Better. Basically every site, Lead FTS. They all sell bands of their own style. Don't worry about them. They're all basically the same. Any of those things you can do without. You can get one or the other. You can mix and match. But that's my ideal setup. I could keep going, but that's what I would say. If I were to give you another suggestion for a little bit more space, a little more cardio, I'd go for the self-resisted machines. I would say an assault bike or an air-resisted bike, air-resisted rower, and air-resisted runner. Now those things take up space. They're a little pricey, but they're great machines. They don't take up as much space as the commercial ones, and they require a lot less maintenance as the commercial ones. You could even throw in a cross-country skiing erg. Same thing. It's fan resisted. They're a little higher though, so I'd put that on the list last. If you have that ceiling space, if you have the money, great. However, you can get cardio without any machines, so that's just like nice to have kind of thing. All right. So we have our list. Don't attempt to do all this at once. Don't attempt to jump right into a program. You need to take the program principles and apply it to this as well. You should start off light, start off with something that you can attain, something you can do, and something that's realistically something you will do. Make sure you write it down, okay? Make sure it's in your goal and not just there and in your house, okay? That's very, very important, because if you have it all, you won't use it necessarily unless you set it up, set yourself up for success. Be mindful when you're exercising. If you're feeling the right thing, it's more important than the fact that you're just generally tired. If you're feeling pain, it is not good. All right? Being mindful of all this stuff is very, very important. Do you feel overworked? Do you feel like you're doing too much? Take a step back. Do you feel like it's really easy? It probably is. That being said, maybe that's your level right now. Okay? And finally, ask for help. This video, hopefully it helped you a little bit if you're new to this stuff. But we also have other people that can help you. Maybe that is your spouse. Maybe that's your friend. Maybe that is your coworker. Maybe that is your coach, doctor. Ask these people for advice. They're professionals, some of them, and some of them are just there, and maybe they're going to give you that emotional support you need to get the workout plan done. Maybe they'll do it with you. Get on an internet, get on a Zoom call, get on a Google Hangout call, do it with them. Hey, I'll let you borrow one of my dumbbells, I'll hold the other, and let's do this workout that I found online. Great. Okay, so what we're getting at is just start somewhere. Do not stop moving. When we stop moving, we start losing things. If you haven't been moving and this is the beginning, great. It's never a bad time to start. So I hope you guys found this a little bit helpful. I know there's a lot of it out there, but I just wanted to get this out for the people who have been asking me lots of questions. If you have any additional questions or you want to know some specific suggestions, let me know in the comment below. Like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing as usual, and keep an eye out for some more videos in the future. Thanks, guys.